Tinfoil dinners, also known as Girl Scout dinners, are a great go-to for camping or any time that you have a campfire going. But did you know that you can make them in your oven? I love this meal because it virtually tends to itself once you do all the prep work and assemble it. I have ground chuck here that I'm going to use as a hamburger patty, but you could use chicken breast or pork chop. I have some potatoes that I've scrubbed clean, and I intend on slicing those and keeping the skins on. And then I also have some baby carrots that I'm going to use whole. I'm going to use a half of an onion, a can of cream of mushroom soup. I have this Snyder's seasoning for steak and prime rib, and some Worcestershire sauce. You can use whatever seasonings you'd like, Italian or garlic salt or garlic powder, or just salt and pepper or seasoning salt. I just sliced the potatoes thin, and now I am cutting the onion up, and I am going to use either wedges or thick slices for that. Mushrooms, green beans, they'd all be good in this as well. I'm using the heavy-duty aluminum foil here. If you didn't have that, just use 2 pieces of the regular aluminum foil on top of one another. Take some ground beef and make it into a patty. You could use chicken or pork chops if you wanted to. I sprinkled the seasoning over the hamburger patty. This Snyder seasoning has salt, spices, sugar, dehydrated onion, dehydrated garlic, paprika, and parsley in it. Next, I'm adding a layer of potatoes on top of the meat, and then I will salt and pepper those after I finish layering them. Never mind my husband, he's changing out all the old doorknobs so that the doorknobs in our house match. Next, I'm adding the onions that I want to this and some carrots. Next, I'm adding a half a can to each packet of cream of mushroom soup, which will make a nice gravy or sauce. If you didn't want to put the cream of mushroom soup on it, you could go ahead and just put a couple of pats of butter if you wanted to, or some olive oil, and the seasonings of your choice. There's really no wrong way to do this. If you wanted to add the vegetables first and then lay the meat on top with the sauce and the Worcestershire sauce on top of that, then go ahead and do it that way. And I think that I have done it that way in the past. I shook a couple of shakes of Worcestershire sauce on top of the mushroom gravy, and now I am just folding up the foil packet so that the food will steam inside. If I was preparing this to take camping and we were going to be cooking it in the coals of a campfire, then I would double wrap this with the tin foil. But I am just going to be cooking it in my oven, so a single wrap on a baking sheet is just fine. So on a baking sheet this goes, and into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I set the timer at 45 minutes, and so now I am just checking this to see if everything's done. I usually bake it at an hour. Of course, it all depends on how big your packet is and how thick your the meat patty is, or the meat that you're cooking, and how many vegetables you have in there. You'll have to adjust the time that you cook it according to that. So I'm checking the potatoes, and I think that some of them are done, but as I go on and check some more, some of them are almost done, but just not quite, and the meat seems like it could go for a little bit longer. So I wrap it back up and put it back into the oven for 15 minutes longer. I just want to mention, if you were doing these for a lot of people and they all had different things in them, that you could mark the outside of the foil with a Sharpie pen, writing the person's name on the packet. I wish you could smell how good this smells. "15 minutes later, and this should be perfect now, so I'm going to plate it up so that we can have dinner. It's very hot, so please be careful if you do this, so that the steam does not burn your fingers or face. These were huge portions that I made, and I ended up eating half of mine the next day for lunch. So right here, I'm just putting the potatoes and the carrots onto the plate, and then I transfer the meat onto the plate. And I mix up the sauce just with the tongs, just so that it's nice and smooth and mixed together. And then I pour that over the meat. The second best thing about this is that cleanup is just so easy and minimal. So after I pour the gravy onto the meat, I am just going to toss the foil in the garbage. And the best thing about this is that it is just such a tasty meal, and it's one of our favorites. So here you have tinfoil dinners, and I hope you try these. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.